Welcome back to 10 Minutes with Nick. Like and subscribe for more. If you don't like and subscribe, why not? We have fun around here. Or at least I do. A couple of housekeeping matters. Number one, we will be traveling this week. And so this will be our last 10 Minutes with Nick for the week. It's very sad, I know. Sorry. Every once in a while the microphone bugs me. This will be the last one for the week. I know. It's very sad. I'm sad. You're sad. We're all sad together. But we'll move through it. Wanted to say for my haters out there, of which there are a few, I love when you guys watch my stuff and comment. I really do. It is particularly enjoyable when I get told that I'm irrelevant by somebody who comments on my stuff. And they tell me in different ways. They tell me usually in the way of like, nah, somebody posted a picture of Chris Collinsworth. Now here's a guy who doesn't know ball. That was put on a video where I was 100% right about Drake May, which is just really funny and just really gratifying to me. It nourishes me. But most of people I comment back and forth with are great. They're very respectful. I try to be respectful of people until they give me a reason not to be. And just in general, I try to respond with positivity. If you say something off the wall and ridiculous, I'm going to call you a silly goose. I'm going to pet you on your silly goose head, and I'm going to send you on your way. Now, to the football. All that said, this will be our last podcast on the Super Bowl before we move more into Bills news and Bills off-season stuff. We'll also maybe touch on the Sabres, depending on a couple of things, like if I ever learn what the offsides rule really means. But we'll also talk about the Buffalo Bandits, who are a local lacrosse team that I love. They're pro, but, nobody really knows about them, so they're my favorites. 3-time world champions. And yeah, but that will be after this podcast. For today, we're going to talk about a few things. First, if this Super Bowl did nothing else, it proved that wins are not a QB stat. That's right, folks. Wins are not a QB stat. And I know that sounds groundbreaking. People have been saying it for years. I'm not the first one. I certainly won't be the last one. And how do we know that wins are not a QB stat, despite what Cam Jordan, he of the 15 minutes of fame on ESPN, would tell you? Wins aren't a QB stat because Sam Darnold is a Super Bowl winning quarterback. And if you watched the game, you know that Sam Darnold did okay. He managed the game very well. He basically made the game with taking kind of what was in front of him, not taking bad sacks, and he got lucky. I mean, he almost had 2 or 3 passes in the first quarter that were picked off. He almost was a huge detriment to his team, like someone else. No, wins and losses are not QB stats. We can see that with, the fact that Sam Darnold was a game manager who helped his team certainly win, but wasn't the reason his team won. That honor belongs to Kenneth Walker, his running back, and the Seahawks defense. Speaking of the Seahawks defense, that was a brilliant defensive game plan by Mike McDonald and his staff, if for no other reason than this simple truth. They never deviated from what they wanted to do. Not at any single point did they say to themselves, we're going to allow what the Patriots are doing to affect our game plan. They said, we're going to run our game plan, and if the Patriots have something to beat it, then so be it. And what they very quickly discovered was that the Patriots did not have anything to beat it. Josh McDaniel excels at offensive play design that gets people open with easy yards after catch and creates running lanes by exploiting that, stretching the defense out like that. The problem is the Seahawks never complained about being stretched. They flew to the ball. They were always on target. They missed maybe 1 or 2 open field tackles, but they were very sure at tackling in the open field. So when it came time to pressure Drake May, it was very fun for them because they could bring corner blitzes. They could bring linebackers. They could come from all over the area. And I know what that sounds like. Just leave it be. they could blitz from all over the line of scrimmage and not worry about what was going to happen. And as the game wore on and it became more and more clear that Drake wasn't going to beat them with his arm, then they didn't care about single high safeties or single coverage on the outside anymore, because they didn't even think he was going to get the ball to his receiver even if the guy got open. And, the stat exists now in the ether. Two stats exist simultaneously. One, Drake May had the worst Super Bowl performance by EPA of a quarterback ever. And two, he's thrown for the most yards in a fourth quarter by a quarterback ever. 235 of his yards came in the fourth quarter. Here's why some stats are misleading and some aren't. First, if you actually watched the game, you saw how abysmal his performance was. You know in your heart that Drake had a terrible game. No matter what the final stat line says, you watched that game with your eyes and know what a bad game he had. And second, yards are easy to come by during garbage time. By the time the Patriots were up, I think it was 22-7, or might have even been the full Monty at 29-7 or whatever. The final score ended up like 29-13, something like that. And at that point, all the Seahawks had to do was do some variation of prevent cover 4, prevent cover 6, basically drop everybody back in coverage and just say, okay, you can have all the yards you want. We're just not going to give you the end zone. Play around in the middle. Do whatever you'd like. We don't care. And the Patriots took full advantage of it. And I'm sure they'll pat themselves on the back for a job well done in garbage time. But part of the reason they got to that point where they were desperate in the fourth quarter and had to hang their hat on something, for example, Stephon Diggs celebrating a catch while down 22 points in the fourth quarter, couldn't happen to a nicer guy, is the fact that the offensive line was so clearly overwhelmed and overmatched by the creative blitz packages brought by Mike McDonald's defense. And in particular, one guy who was overmatched, I'll get to the other guy in a second, but one guy was Will Campbell, their rookie left tackle. Now, granted, look, he's a rookie. He'll want this game back, as every rookie would. But he gave up something like 14 pressures on the quarterback. That doesn't mean he gave up 14 sacks, but he was part of the problem of giving up, I think, 3 or 4 sacks by the time the first half was over. And that is a lot of pressures to give up because he's guarding the blind side of the quarterback, remember. So every quarterback has an internal clock they need to run to keep themselves on schedule and to be able to get the ball out before pressure can get home. If your blind side is constantly collapsing in, and that's the side, remember, you can't look at, your clock gets sped up. You might say to yourself, I just need 3 seconds. That's all I need to get the ball out. But if all of a sudden you keep feeling pressure off that left side, that 3-second clock is now, that's more of a 2-second clock. That's more of a 1.75 second clock. Like, I don't have the time I need. No roots can develop. I can't get into a rhythm, and I keep getting pushed off my spot in the pocket, which even if the left side doesn't get home, somebody else will get home. Or even if nobody gets home, somebody will do something like, I don't know, bat the ball up in the air, create a chance at a turnover, or get home and cause a fumble that essentially turns into a pick six. The second guy who got just absolutely demolished on the Patriots line was their center. And Mills was the defender, but I forget who the Patriots guy was. The defender came it wasn't even a blitz. It was just strong defensive line play where he essentially manhandled the center backward, and instead of beating the center around or under or something, he just wrapped up the center and Drake and planted them both. When you talk about momentum in a game, that's a play where you say to yourself, this Seahawks defense is just feeling it. And the Patriots offense was not in any universe feeling anything. They got creamed, and the history is not on their side, because no quarterback who has ever lost the Super Bowl in their second year has ever gone back. And that includes one-time Super Bowl appearing merchant Joe Burrow, who is still thought of as one of the elite quarterbacks, even though I don't know if in recent memory he's even made the playoffs. I don't make the rules. I just spout the facts. Anyways, this is our last talk about the Super Bowl until somebody says something that pisses me off and forces me to talk about it again. But we'll cross that bridge after we come to it. Anyways, I'll be off the rest of the week. I'll be back on Monday. I'm looking forward to talking to all of you. Have a great week. Enjoy. Take some time off from watching football. Breathe. Touch grass. Do some research on another sport you can obsess about, and then maybe say hi to your family. It's been a long football season. I'm Nick. This is 10 Minutes with Nick. Have a great day.